What is going on, Niner fans? The 49ers made a move this morning. Yeah, they did. They signed a guy. They signed a safety, former second-round pick, Richie Grant. He was from the Falcons. He's a special teamer. He's been in the league for 4 years, and the 49ers made that move today. We're going to talk about that. How are we feeling this morning? Good morning. Yesterday wasn't the greatest day of all time. We can all agree with that one, right? It was definitely one for the ages. 49ers lost so many players yesterday. Dre Greenlaw, Kyle Juszczyk, Hargraves going to the Vikings reportedly, and down the list. The 49ers, Talanoa Hufanga, lost a lot of good players. And, it's a very, very stressful day now dealing with. We got to recuperate from that. So it looks like the 49ers, they made one move to bolster their lineup. They signed Richie Grant, free agent safety. This was according to Jeremy Fowler this morning. Again, he's a former second-round pick. Now, the thing with Richie Grant is he's really a special team. He's a really good special teamer, okay? So 49ers, where did they need to improve special teams? So they did. They got a special teamer who has 33 career starts, has 17 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, 11 touchdowns allowed, 4 forced fumbles, 3 sacks, 1,066 snaps on special teams. So it looks like he's a core special teamer. Former second round pick, but he's a special teamer. It was a 1-year deal. It wasn't anything, crazy. So it's a 1-year deal, special teams guy. Obviously, they need to improve that area. So maybe they think he's really good at special teams. Now, he's probably not going to start, right? Because you got Mustafa and Jair Brown. Maybe he'll compete with Jair Brown because Jair wasn't the greatest last year. But this guy, again, has allowed 11 touchdowns. So I don't think that you want to start a guy that has allowed 11 touchdowns. So he's more of a special team guy. And again, the deal wasn't crazy. It was a $1.5 million deal with $200,000 guaranteed. So he's getting $200,000 guaranteed, 1-year contract. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. So again, low risk type guy. They needed special teamers, and that's what they got. That's what they got. So far, the 49ers drafted a backup tight end and a special team safety. This is like George Odom 2.0, I guess. George Odom's a big-time special team safety. Maybe they move away from him. I can't tell you. But right now, the 49ers have been moving away from players. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see. Again, he's not like a big-time guy, not a big-time name, but it's something. It's better than nothing. They did get some depth. But the 49ers are losing out on Jonathan Allen. Let's go into that. Obviously, he was a guy that was linked to the 49ers, right? Jonathan Allen was a possible destination, a possible target. 49ers are going to get Jonathan Allen. It didn't happen. The 2-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle, Jonathan Allen, reached an agreement with the Vikings on a 3-year, $60 million contract for Tom Pelissero. So 49ers were never going to pay $20 million a year for a guy. I wish they would have. I wish they would have paid him. I wish we would have got Jonathan Allen because now your defensive line depth is just really bad. So he does go to the Vikings, 3-year deal, $60 million. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. He's a really good player, but the 49ers, they did not get him. And then on top of that, Javon Hargrave is closing in on a deal with the Vikings. The Vikings are going to get Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. And it looks like the Vikings are going to sign him when his release is official from the team Wednesday, which is tomorrow. So the 49ers are about to lose Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, and they haven't replaced any of that in defensive line depth. That's a little concerning. They did sign Kevin Givens yesterday. Let's hear it for Kevin Givens. But they did not they're not going to bring back Hargrave, who they said maybe they could, but they're not going to bring him back. And then Jonathan Allen, to me, that was a gut punch because I thought, okay, maybe the 49ers could go get him. Every day, these reporters, these Niner insiders were saying the 49ers are going after Jonathan Allen. It's not happening. Every player that was linked to the 49ers, that all these not NFL insiders, but 49er insiders, Mayoko, Tim Kawakami, Eric Branch, all these guys were completely wrong in free agency this year. Absolutely wrong. You had, again, so many players that were linked Jermaine Sherwood, that guy was gone immediately. DJ Jones, Jonathan Allen. The only guy that's really left out of all the players that were linked is Joey Bosa. And apparently, according to Mike Silver last night, they're in a bidding war with the Dolphins. The Dolphins potentially have $10 million on the table. They said that the 49ers might have $10 million or less. It was like $10 million or less. But who knows? And then there was like a tweet where he says, well, the numbers might be not true. It was, let me pull up the tree. So at the end of the day, Niners are not getting anybody that they're linked to. Who knows? Maybe they'll sign them. Like, if this was a home run deal, like, why didn't the 49ers already do it? This should have been, if this was so, like, everybody was saying, oh, the 49ers are going to get Joey Bosa, why didn't it just happen already? Why didn't it happen just, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I know these things can take time, but I don't know. So this is what Michael Silver said yesterday. 49ers and Dolphins have each made offers to free agent Joey Bosa in the same relative price range. He'd get less than $10 million in 2025 in either scenario. And then he quote tweets that and says, I talked to someone familiar with these discussions who disputes that any offer was made by the 49ers and insists that these numbers are wrong. These are fluid discussions, and obviously proposals and scenarios can change. It's possible Bosa will get more than $10 million from a team. So, according to Silver, there's a bidding war between the Dolphins and 49ers. And then he says that both teams offered less than $10 million. And then he says, well, somebody disputed the fact that the Niners offered that money. So who knows what the hell's happening, man? 49ers have missed out on every player that they've been linked to. Don't link a player to the Niners anymore because you won't get them. Dolmans, JD Zuniga says, I really wanted Dolman. Yes, that was a guy that was linked. Well, actually, I didn't think so. I didn't think there was any chance, but there was a lot of people that'll tell you, oh, the Niners could go get Dolman. So we'll see. And that's it. We'll talk about some more stuff because somebody asked what happened with Mason. Let's talk about Mason, but I got a good question from MSQ. Who says, Edgar says we're shopping at the swap meet. MSQ says, I don't get it, Raj. You want to give Greenlaw type player a prove-it deal instead of long-term, but are mad when the Niners don't spend big. Mad when we don't spend. I'm not saying don't spend big, but bring in some quality players. Like Richie Grant, he's a special teamer. That's not really doing anything. That's not moving the needle. Again, the players, the 49ers so far, again, it's still early, haven't moved the needle. Like, I know you're getting draft picks, and a lot of people are so happy we got draft picks, but those draft picks have to turn into something. And I've said this many times. You can sit here and be so cool and happy about draft picks. And yeah, those draft picks have to materialize into something. If those draft picks turn into be mediocre players, if they don't turn to be star players or starters, or if they become if they don't even become like barely fringe type players, it doesn't matter. All the draft picks in the world aren't going to beat a team right now. Like, you have to compete against the Washington Commanders, who've improved their roster, the Philadelphia Eagles, who won a Super Bowl, improved their roster, the Detroit Lions, the LA Rams. Forget those other teams, your own division. You might not even be able to compete in your division because the Rams are wiping you. I love Dre Greenlaw. I thought he was the only guy that out of all the free agents, if they could sign, bring him back. Because we all knew Kyle Juszczyk, the writing was on the wall. I mean, I'm not mad at it, but when it all hits you in one day, it was like a wave. It was like, oh my God. That was like the final gut punch. Charvarius Ward, he told us he wasn't coming back, so I wasn't mad at that. Talanoa Hufanga, I think most people are like, yeah, he can leave, but just the emotional toll that the emotional leadership he brought to his team. And when he was a Pro Bowl or All Pro that year, he was amazing. So when he's fully healthy, the guy's a game changer. I do think they need to upgrade safety. Right now they have it. Jair Brown, they thought he was going to be a big time player. So far, he hasn't delivered. I know it's only been 2 years, so he's still young. He can improve, but he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Malik Mustafa was really good last year. There'll be a lot of pressure on him. These younger players have to take that leap. They absolutely have to take that leap this year. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not mad at anything. I wish Dre Greenlaw would have stayed, but I mean, the money these guys got, honestly, the money that the 49ers players got, it's just ridiculous. The 49ers players that left in free agency, they got stacks and stacks of money. So I can't even be mad at them. I'm just mad at the 49ers not being really aggressive. Now, they told us this. They kind of hinted to this. They alluded to this that said, hey, we're not going to be aggressive. We got to stop spending. And John Lynch said it. So we got to get younger. They're going through the draft this year. He says we got to stop spending. They're going through the draft this year because cheap contracts, draft players, right? Yeah, rookies. So the 49ers absolutely have to crush the draft. Bottom line, they're not going to do much in free agency. And I think we've accepted that. Well, at least I have. The draft is critical. If you draft a bunch of players and they turn out to be bums, then it doesn't matter how many draft picks you got. So I think that's the big takeaway from here. It does take time. So. Making moves, baby. This team will also depend heavy on how Purdy performs. I agree. They're shedding contract money because they got to pay Purdy. They haven't had to pay a quarterback in a very long time. You guys got to realize they have not paid a quarterback. Brock Purdy played on his peanut contract. Before that, you had Trey Lance on a rookie contract. It wasn't a lot of money, compared to what quarterbacks make. And then Jimmy Garoppolo. There was a point where, he was making $25 million. But $25 million compared to the market of quarterbacks now is nothing. It's a bargain. And then they restructured his contract. So if you really think about it, the 49ers have not really paid a quarterback $40, $50, $60 million like these other teams at all. They've never had to pay that much. So they're learning. Damn. The only problem I have with this is they have to make sure they build an offensive line around Brock Purdy. If you don't build an offensive line, it's not going to be pretty. Like, you can have all the weapons in the world, and it's going to be ugly. So the 49ers, right now, I have not seen any upgrades in their offensive line, but it's still early. Hopefully they can change that, because Brock Purdy was running for his life last year. But right now, the offensive line is relatively the same as it was last year. You lose a depth piece in Jalen Moore, who you can't fault him for taking that money. Aaron Banks, the contract he got was absurd. I would never have paid him. 4 years, $77 million. Good for Aaron Banks, man. Good for him. He got a bag and a half. So, honestly, I'm not even mad at Aaron Banks for taking that money. And Niners weren't going to pay it, but you got to upgrade at guard. And that's the price to pay for offensive line. And I think the 49ers have not been prioritizing the O-line. And it shows to you. Like, they're trying to get over with bargain bins. They're shopping at Temu for O-line. And now it's catching up with them. It really has. They have to draft well. They have to get another Dominic Pooney. They They really do at left guard. And then maybe a tackle. But they're gung-ho on Colton McKivitz, who saves them a lot of money. It was like an $8 million or $7 million contract. Look at the tackles out there. They got pay. Colton McKivitz is your starter, and he's a bargain bin price. Is he the worst tackle in the world? No, he's okay. He's good. He's a marginal starter, but marginal starter, you saw where it got you last year, right? You need a really good, solid player, because you're going up against some edge rushers that are just insane out there, right? Look at the D line of the Rams. They really went at it. Fiske and everything. They drafted a stud. They drafted two studs really on the D line. And now they've got to deal with that every year. And then whoever else they play. So that's the issue, is the 49ers need to upgrade that right tackle spot. And as much as we love Trent Williams, he's getting older, guys. And he's got maybe 1 or 2 more years left in the legs, left in the tank. You got to replace him. So the O-line is prudent. You got to protect Brock Purdy. Now, a lot of people are mad because, they lost Debo, and Brandon Ayuk's, going to be injured for most of the season. But I'm not too worried about the weapons. I'm actually like, okay, look, they got George Kittle. They got a blocking tight end. Now George Kittle can be George Kittle in the offense. You can utilize him more. So that's really good. Open up George Kittle more. Juwan Jennings, he showed us he was a dog last year, and we knew that. But, man, he really stepped up, and he was like a wide receiver that you could rely on even more, and big-time game type guy. So Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, I think Ricky Pearsall is going to take a huge leap. He's a young guy, and he was a first-round pick. We knew he was the guy that was going to replace, Debo down the line, or BA, whoever they're going to trade last year. So you got Jennings, you got Ayuk, or when he comes back, you got Pearsall, you got Kittle, and you got CMC. So, honestly, the offensive weapons, it's not like they've downgraded a lot. They still got some really good players. Now, you need to add one more guy to the mix, at least another good wide receiver. You got Isaac Orlando. He's good. So they might have Jordan Mason. Let's talk about Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason, they offered him his 2nd-round tender. Not a chicken tendy, but a 2nd-round tender. Okay? So let me tell you what this means, because some of you guys are, well, what's tender? We post this every year. So you should just, next year, every time the tender news move just comes out, copy paste it and save it because you'll have it. Because every year it's the same. It's the same question. What does tender mean? What does a tender mean? Did you forget from last year? A tender is basically an agreement. It's an agreement. It's an agreement to say this is our stake value of you. Okay. So if Mason is not signed by another team, if no team matches this tender, this agreement, this contract, basically, 49ers have to pay him $5.35 million in 2025 because that's the price of a second round chicken tender. That's the price of a tender in a second round. It's the price. It's like when you go to Cane's, price of the tender in their place is a certain amount. Now, when you're here in the NFL, the price of a second round tender is $5.35 million. I think a round one tender is like $7 million. Round three tender is like $3 million. So it's like increments of $2 million from $3 million. So a second round tender. So why does that mean second round? That's the value of the draft pick that you're placing on that tender. So if another team matches it and says, we want Jordan Mason, his price tag is $5.35 million. Okay. So let's say the Rams say, oh, we want Jordan Mason. Y'all, we'll give him that 5.35. But that team has to give up second round pick because it's a second round tender. So that's what it means to have a tender. So right now the 49ers have Jordan Mason on a second round tender. He has to sign it and agree. And they have to wait for see if the team can match it. No team matches it. 49ers keep him, but they pay him 5.35. If a team matches it, team has to give. It's basically trading a second round pick for Jordan Mason. So imagine the 49ers trade Jordan Mason. They get the second round pick. And they take like Cam Scatterbo or something to replace that. That's the reality. And remember a week ago or so, there was a report that said the 49ers are getting a lot of calls on trade proposals for Jordan Mason. This is where it comes in. Now, those teams that wanted to trade potentially for Jordan Mason, let's say the Eagles said, hey, John Lynch, what's up with Jordan Mason? What's up? Are you going to tender him? Are you going to tender him? Well, we might wait and see. Now the 49ers are telling the NFL, we placed a second round tender. So Eagles, when you called us last week, this is your answer. Give us a second round pick. And the Eagles would have to send a second round pick to little old Johnny Lynch, who's been sleeping at his desk. Little old Johnny Lynch, he's sleeping like I was sleeping in this morning. I was late to the news. He's sleeping on his desk. And he gets the second round pick. They send it to us. And then John Lynch wakes up. Oh, we got another draft pick? We can work with this. We can work with this. That's what a second round tender is. That's what's happening with Jordan Mason. And I hope that answered your question. So, what's up, Christine? What's up? My man 49ers media says, it wouldn't shock me if they try to give Mason a 2-year deal like they did Jennings. That's an option. If the 49ers want to keep him and not have to pay him $5.35 million 1 year, they can do like a little extension, little contract negotiation like they did with Jennings. Because Jennings, they also offered him his little tender last year, and he never signed it because the 49ers reached a 2-year extension. That's very possible. That's possible. Or they can trade him and get that second round pick, which I don't know. I know there was a lot of reports last week that says Jordan Mason is being shopped at, all that stuff. I really think the 49ers are saying, yo, take him. Take him. So we get that second round pick because then they can get a guy like Cam Scatterbo. We'll see. Danny wants to know, would I smooch Jordan Mason? I would not smooch Jordan Mason. MSQ says the Luke Farrell hate is unwarranted. He's a clear upgrade at tight end too, and you know that. He's not bad. He's Charlie Warner 2.0. We haven't seen him play right now with the 49ers, so it's, can't hate on the guy, but how big of an upgrade is it? We'll see. But you're right. It is I think it is a slight upgrade at tight end too, but it's not saying much because those tight end twos that we had were not too great. I did like Eric Sauber, but he wasn't that great of a blocker. They needed a guy that can block because they're going to need to let George Kittle be George Kittle in the pass game because they lost Debo. That's a big loss. And they lost Kyle Juszczyk now. You need a guy that can actually block because Kyle Juszczyk was a big blocker. So this guy can help. And if he's blocking, you can open up Kittle a little bit more. So, yeah, it wasn't a horrible pick. It just wasn't like the splashy pick that we were like, well, okay. cool. First day. Tej says the NFC just got better. We're cooked. We're so cooked. NFC did get better, and that's my worry is the NFC is improving. The 49ers are a little bit behind. They're a little behind. Now, they still have talent. They got Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Diamond Lenore, George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall, and they have talent. It's not that they don't. Like, they still have a good core of players, but these other teams that had a good core of players, they added to it, and that's just dangerous. So we'll see. They got to beat the Rams. To me, right now, the NFC, the rest of the NFC doesn't matter because if you can't beat the Rams, it doesn't even matter what you do. And right now, the Rams are a little bit better than the 49ers. They were a little bit better last year. They had a heck of a draft. 49ers had a heck of a draft, and so did the Rams. They added Devontae Adams. They got Puka. They got Matt Stafford. Now, I think Matt Stafford's their big X factor. He's 37, good player. But if he gets hurt, Devontae Adams is not going to be a happy man. He's going to crash out when Jimmy Garoppolo hits the field. He's going to be sick to his stomach. The Giants signed Slayton. Yeah. Sam Darnold went to the Colts. That was a good one. That was a good Colts competition. Little competition in Indy at quarterback position because Anthony Richards, AR-15, mid. Rick says we need a dominant D-line to get to Stafford. If we do that, we can't do nothing. That's definitely one of the big issues is D-line. Right now, this defensive line is razor thin. I think going into this draft right now, you got to go D-line round at pick 11. Honestly, I know everybody wants an offensive lineman, but if they do not add a quality, premier, blue-chip defensive lineman in the draft at pick 11, they're not stopping. Any people are going to run all over us. And that run defense was bad last year. So they're putting themselves in a tough position because the O-line is not great, and you need to upgrade that. And D-line is absolutely cooked right now. So the 49ers have a problem. It is the trenches. In order to win this game, like if you watch the Super Bowl, the blueprint is right in front of your face. Maybe they decided not to watch Super Bowl because it hurt them to the Chiefs. They didn't want to see the Chiefs. They didn't want to see the Eagles, two teams that they're nemesis. I hope they watched it because if you watch that damn Super Bowl, you'll see it's all about the trenches now. And, a lot of the league is a copycat league, right? It's a copycat league. Just copy what the Eagles. They built the damn trenches like dogs, man. They were bad. They got Vic Fangio, and they just revamped the D-line. They revamped the O-line. They beefed up the O-line. And now the 49ers, we're sitting here, and we're losing defensive linemen. We're losing offensive linemen. Granted, we weren't going to pay those two O-line and the money they got, and I'm happy they got it, but they got to do something to fix this O-line. And they have to address this defensive line. Because right now, this defensive line is thin. It's thin. Very thin. So Leon Sandcastle says, I remember Forster said losing Warner was a huge loss to the O-line because he helped them so much. So they went out and got the second best blocking tight end. Not mad at it. Yeah, no, like I said, this guy replaces Charlie Warner, who was a really good blocking tight end. And that's what the 49ers need to do. But it also shifts them away from maybe the 21 personnel because they lost Kyle Juszczyk. So they might be evolving on offense. There was a lot of critics of Kyle Shanahan. Maybe he's going to change his ways. He's got an offensive coordinator, Clay Kubiak. Maybe Clay Kubiak has some say in this, and we're not even realizing it. So interesting stories all around. I don't know. There's a lot to say. And how much is a blocking tight end going to help this O-line? Like, that's the thing. If you're relying on a blocking tight end to fix your O-line, that's not the best strategy in the world, but it could help. Just go get the O-lineman, damn it. But I get it. They're cash strapped, and maybe paying the prices for O-line is wild out there. So, yeah, I get that too. So, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. But, yeah, let's recap real quick. Real quick, let's recap it because there was news this morning. If you missed it, I'm just going to recap it briefly. Let's see. So 49ers, they signed free agent safety Richie Grant on a 1-year deal. $200,000 guaranteed. Not much. They tendered Jordan Mason on a second round tender. And if you remember, if Mason is not signed by another team, he will make $5.35 million in 2025. If another team does, 49ers get a second round pick. That's what a tender is. They will lose Javon Hargrave officially tomorrow. We all know this. He was going to get released. And it looks like the Vikings will be the team that picks up Hargrave. He didn't last very long on free agency. So Javon Hargrave is going to the Vikings. And the Vikings also get Jonathan Allen, who was linked to the 49ers as a potential target. Now, one last thing to say is if you were a potential target for the 49ers, you're not coming to the 49ers. So if you want to come to the Niners, don't be a potential target. So that's pretty much the morning roundup. Last night, as we stated, the Dolphins and the 49ers are in some type of bidding war for Joey Bosa. That's where we stand. George Kittle is now the longest tenured 49er. They got rid of Kyle Juszczyk, and that was very, very, very sad news. So we'll see. You guys have a good rest of your day. We'll be live. We'll talk about it a little later as the day goes. I hope they make some big moves. Take care. Have a good one.